What's up everyone, welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, crazy people, and everything in between. Hope you're all doing awesome, and as usual, we'll be checking out some more Reddit posts today. So be sure to share your thoughts about today's stories down in the comments, and let's get into it. Am I the jerk for calling the cops on my drunk friend? This happened probably 10 years ago now, but I've always been curious. I threw a house party one night and all my coworkers came over. We were all in our early to mid-20s working at the same part-time BS minimum wage job and just trying to get through college. Our parties were known to get out of control, but we were always responsible when it came down to it. When this new guy started working there, let's call him Tim, he desperately wanted to fit in with us. He was only 20 at the time, but would always drink with us. He was a super cool dude, but when he got drunk, he would wander, yep, one of those, and get himself into trouble. He wouldn't remember it the next day and do it again the next night. I am a woman and I have had to step into fights for this boy. I full-on punched a man in the face because this dumbass started a fight he couldn't finish. My male friends had to do the same on more than one occasion. So the night of the party, Tim shows up and so do a lot of other people. I don't get drunk when I'm hosting a party in case of emergencies. I also always offer up the couch, the pull-out ottoman, and the spare bedroom to anyone who feels they can't drive or get an Uber. I do not let my friends drink and drive. Let me repeat that. I do not let my friends drink and drive. I would die before I let that happen. Anyways, Tim gets so drunk to the point he's blacking out. He threw up in my bathroom sink and then the floor, getting it all over himself. I cleaned it and him up. He kept drinking after that. Thing is about Tim, he did not know his limits, thanks to him only being 20 and inexperienced. No, I did not serve him the alcohol at the party. He brought it himself. So Tim is getting ready to leave and I tell him he is not leaving. I tell him he is either going to call an Uber or stay on the couch or in the guest room. He tells me no and grabs his keys. I and a few others who were seeing this start to insist, and then full-on demand that he stay. I even offered to pay for his Uber. He still said no, then had the audacity to go seek out people he could drive home because he didn't want to be alone for the drive. The dude couldn't even walk. Tim finds 2 more blackout drunk coworkers and gets them into his car. I told him I would call the police on him and he shrugged and told me to do it. Then he drove off, missing the driveway and going over the curb, with 2 friends I've known longer than him in the back of his truck. I called the cops. I gave them his license plate and made it an anonymous call. They ended up pulling him over quite literally down the street and arrested him. His alcohol limit was through the roof, and my coworkers, even though I never said anything, knew I had done it and praised me for it, saying I saved his life and our 2 other coworkers' lives. Those other 2 were so drunk they didn't remember getting into his car. They thanked me. He got released the next morning and had to pay some crazy fines, and got a suspended license. He also got charged with having my 2 friends in the back. They went super easy on him, got his license back far sooner than we all thought, but he never did it again. So am I the jerk? Edit. I should have added that we did always take his keys when we got to any party, since he was known for being a mess. At this party, a girl he had a crush on, and she knew it and strung him along, knowing they would never happen, gave him the keys to leave. At this particular party, I invited Tim, but not this girl, since she influenced his bad behavior. Well, he told her about the party and she came along anyways. She was not one of the 2 people in the car. Well, since OP is asking whether she's a jerk for this, the answer is no. I don't even need to elaborate on why. I also don't know why OP would still be wondering that 10 years later. Actually, scrolling the comments, OP did say, I've been called an asshole when telling this story to other people, and I get told I'm not safe to drink around. Was just wondering if anyone else thought that way. Ah yes, OP is the one that's not safe to drink around, because she doesn't let blackout drunk people drive a 5,000-pound death machine when they can barely walk. Yep, definitely the jerk. New landlord hates privacy. I recently found myself needing a month-to-month lease for between 6 months to 14 months in Baltimore, which I was unfamiliar with. The apartment I found is a small efficiency in an older building. They agreed to a standard lease for the first 6 months, followed by month-to-month lease. I was to be the first tenant. When I toured it 6 weeks ago, workers were still painting the rooms. The landlord's son is living upstairs, and this is my landlord's first time renting. The lease was obviously pulled from a form and seemed standard. There is a clause in the lease which states that I can't install curtain rods or hooks. This seems standard as well. I had similar at my old apartment. I assumed there would be some sort of curtain provided, and this was in regards to additional curtains. I moved in Sunday and found the landlord had not installed curtains at all. At this point, I assumed the issue with curtains was the potential of damage to the wall, so I bought tension rods that require no hardware and used them to hang curtains. Monday afternoon, I got a text from my landlord saying I needed to remove the curtains. The building is on a street corner with a fair amount of foot traffic. Between the 4 windows, you can see all of my apartment with the exception of the portion of the bathroom with the toilet and tub. Not only does this mean I have no privacy, but the neighborhood is slightly sketchy after dark. The nearby buildings have bars on their windows. Anyone passing by not only can see my possessions, but whether or not I am home. I expressed this to the landlord in my reply over text. He replied to reread my lease. I left them up overnight. I had orientation this morning and came back to find the curtains removed and nowhere in my apartment. I discovered this before entering the building, as 2 guys were outside of my windows and looking in my apartment. They left when I entered the building. I messaged the landlord saying he didn't have the right to enter the apartment and asked for the curtains back. He again said to check my lease, and then commented that I needed to finish unpacking as it looked messy in my apartment. I had to head to a work event, so I couldn't follow through more, but I moved my electronics to one corner and used a bookshelf to block one of the windows so they weren't visible. While at the event, I got a text from the landlord with a picture of the blocked window, captioned, "What's this?" What can I do to prevent my landlord from entering the apartment unannounced, and to compel him to allow some form of curtain? Alternatively, how do I break my lease 3 days into it? This is too crazy for week 1. And that brings us to the update a couple days after the original. It looks like I'm staying, but I took control of the situation. Not long after posting, it became apparent at work that the length of time I would be needed on this project is significantly lower than outside estimates originally said. Finding new arrangements seemed impossible. I mentioned what was going on at dinner, and included at the table was the company's lawyer, who I know, who offered to review the lease in an unofficial basis. Wednesday morning, I called police about the stolen curtains because I wanted a paper trail. They gave me a police report but were uninterested in speaking to my landlord. I reported the theft to my insurance, gave them the info on who stole them, text from landlord, and they said they would be contacting someone in the city. It's only $200, but it's the point of the thing. I next bought room dividers, which in no way, shape, or form can be considered curtains, blinds, etc., but block the windows while still letting in light. They were only $40 each. At the same time, I searched the whole apartment, vents, lights, etc., and can't find any cameras as someone suggested. By that time, my friend who is a lawyer called me. She did a little review of the lease and the local laws. She said Baltimore has really shaky laws on when a landlord can come in, but pointed out that in my lease, there is a clause that says the landlord will notify 48 hours prior to entrance, and will call prior to entering in case of emergency. She drafted me a letter to send to my landlord. Her name won't appear anywhere, but said it can be on my company's letterhead. The letter details some of my rights as a tenant, quotes the lease, and reminds him he is bound by these rules as well. I signed and sent it immediately. I had mentioned wanting a security camera, and my company is arranging to have a camera sent that will automatically upload video off-site, work for an hour battery life if the electricity is out, and operates on cellular so it doesn't need Wi-Fi. It will be here tomorrow. I also made the decision to send my PS4 and my cameras back to my home. My personal and business laptops I will just keep with me while I'm out of the apartment. This leaves the only real valuables as my TV and the security camera itself. Everything else is books, clothes, and kitchen things. I ordered a sign for outside that says the property is monitored by security cameras, and got a jamb for the door that holds it closed while I am inside. I am prepared for the landlord to make my life hell, but if he breaks the lease, my plan is to ask the company to move me into an extended stay hotel for the duration of my trip. It will be more expensive for them, but that's company policy for trips less than 4 months. At the moment, I feel as safe as I can in this situation. Updates. Landlord texted me, "Sweetie, I didn't think you'd be like this." Responded, "I'm not your sweetie, I'm your tenant. My name is such and such. Please use it." Today I effed up by letting an obsession with Pokemon lead to a house fire. Okay, first things first. This did not happen today. This happened in 1999 when I was 7 years old. I had just seen the episode of Pokemon where they found the wild Charmander in the rain, and a comment was made, "If the flame on his tail goes out, he will die." My mind, which overanalyzes everything, made a connection. Normally in the show, Pokemon don't die. They faint. That raised a flag in my head telling me that this was a significant piece of information. So I thought to myself, what if I light my toy Charmander's tail on fire? Will it come to life? One morning around 3 a.m., I snuck downstairs into the kitchen, climbed up onto the counter and up to the cabinets above the fridge, grabbed the box of matches, and went back upstairs. I sat on my bed, plastic Charmander from one of those Pokeball toys in one hand, lit match in the other. Now, not knowing at the time that a flame rises, I held the match upside down with intention of pointing the flame at the end of the Charmander's tail. I freaked out as the flame started moving up to my fingers and dropped the lit match on my bed. All that cotton and polyester from the blankets immediately ignited, and there was suddenly a pool of fire in the middle of my bed. I ran to my mom's room down the hall and started screaming, "Mommy, Mommy, there's a fire in my room." She told me that I was dreaming and to go back to bed. Then the smoke alarm started going off and she shot out of bed to go have a look. She entered my room, saw the pool of flames, which was now at least twice as big as when I had left the room, and ran to my sister's room to get her to safety, somehow thinking to close the door to my bedroom behind her in the process. We had a designated meeting spot in the front yard that we had planned as a family in case there was ever such an emergency. Well, I completely forgot in the heat of the moment, and ran down to the end of the driveway and just started screaming for the entire neighborhood to hear at 3 a.m. "Fire! Fire! There's a fire!" After the fire department arrived and took care of my moment of derp, which had evolved into total disaster, the fire marshal did investigate and very quickly found the box of matches, and I received a very stern lecture from both him and my parents that same morning. Thankfully, the whole house didn't burn down, but some walls and most of the upstairs flooring on that side of the house did have to be replaced. The whole house had to be cleaned to get rid of all the soot, and water damage from the fire department had to be mitigated. It's a damn good thing insurance is a thing. There was also an in-law apartment above our garage where my aunt was living, so the entire family took shelter there with her for the next couple months as the repairs to the house were being made. We needed to de-stress though. A family of 4 plus an aunt living in a small 1-bed, 1-bath apartment makes for quite tight living conditions. So my parents made a decision to take us all to Disney World to get our minds off of things. But I was still traumatized from the event. Anything that had any relation to fire terrified me. If a lamp was too close to a window curtain, I wouldn't be able to sleep until I had my mom move it farther away. The fireworks in the theme park had me worried that the entire park would catch fire. Those fears lasted a good while. Anyway, that's going to be it for today, guys. Thank you for watching, I appreciate it. Be sure to drop a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe as well if you want to see more Reddit content like this. So I'm out of here. Take care, friends, and I'll see you next time.